What's going on, guys? Welcome back to F123 for Season 2, round number 12, I believe, of my team career mode. Yes, we're now back in Qatar for our second race in this game. Well, technically, it's going to be our third and fourth races because we've got sprint race this weekend, of course. So let's see how that goes for us. We're actually going to go for personnel pit equipment stage 2. Wasn't quite sure what I was saying just then. I had a slight brain fade. God, I'm having a real brain. I'm not even going to bother. This is R&D. As you can see, everybody's closing up. Even Alfa Romeo and Alfa Tyre are starting to slowly catch up to kind of the main group. But as you can see, we've just been overtaken by Ferrari once again. So we're now fourth on R&D, but it is all still very, very close. So into Q1, and yeah, I like this track. We had a lot of fun here in Season 1. It was the first time I'd ever driven the track because it's not been in an F1 game before F123. And it was, you know, we had a fairly eventful weekend from what I remember. Some chaos in the sprint and some chaos in the race as well. I remember, I think it was the sprint, was it, where Russell spun around, caused a bit of mayhem. Oh yeah, and then it was Perez, wasn't it? Then Perez had a mechanical failure, and then I think picked up, or was it Perez picked up damage from Russell, then had a mechanical failure, and kind of, yeah, it was all a bit of chaos in that Grand Prix weekend last time around. We make it through to Q2, only P11 there, but I did only do one run, I believe, or it might have been that I did two, but I only went quickest on my first run, I can't quite remember. Q2 comes around, and yeah, going pretty well here, on for a pretty good lap this time around. Yeah, not really much else to say in quality. It's just a fun track to drive. I'm very excited to come back here, you know, in real life this year when we get to this race, which isn't that far away actually. We've got Singapore up next this weekend, and I think then we've got Japan, and then it's Qatar, I believe. So not a long time to go until we see Formula 1 cars actually racing around this track once again. And yeah, it was an interesting race last time. Very interesting stuff with tyre wear, you know, a lot of punctures going on last time around in real life, as we go quickest in Q2, so showing some good pace. Tsunoda's also there in P4, very good result. McLaren's looking quick, not Piastri though, P11 again for him. Both Red Bulls out as well, so that seems to be a bit of a theme here. The Red Bulls, and it's really interesting to see. I actually quite like how we're seeing Red Bull struggle quite a lot in this career mode so far, because of course in real life they're absolutely dominating, but in our career mode really struggling. You know, only one of them's been making it to Q3 quite consistently for the last few races, so it's been a pretty dismal start to this whole career mode for Red Bull, especially Season 2. I think they've had one podium. I think Perez might have had one podium. Verstappen has not even been on the podium this season, which is just absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, Q3 going pretty well here. Now this is definitely my first flying lap in Q3. I went out for a second flying lap on a brand new set of tyres and didn't go quicker. Now I can't remember if this is a new set or not. I think it is, because the sprint weekend kind of works your tyres out a little bit differently, and I'm pretty sure it worked out that I ended up having two brand new sets to push on in Q3. So this is, from what I remember, a brand new set of tyres push lap. But yeah, my second push lap for some reason just didn't really, I don't know, I just couldn't get the pace back up there and didn't have a very good second flying lap at all. So it's gonna had to be this lap that counted. We crossed the line, we go quickest at that point in time. In the end though, it's P3 for us. Still pretty good after just one flying lap there. Norris is on pole position, so awesome for him. I think that might be his first pole position. And then Fernando Alonso on the front row, we're there in third. Tsunoda's there in fifth, so it's a good qualifying for him as well. Let's see what the sprint has in store.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, and Fernando Alonso completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Davies, Leclerc, Tsunoda, Russell, Sainz, Gasly, Hamilton, Ocon, Oscar Piastri, Perez, Verstappen, Stroll, Bottas, Liam Lawson, Joe, Doohan, Albon, Magnussen, De Vries, and Logan Sargent. And with preparations almost complete, let's head trackside for today's sprint.
Alright, here we go for the sprint in Qatar, and it is raining. The heavens have opened here in Qatar. It is really heavily raining. We're on full wet tyres, and this is interesting because there's no rain forecast for the main race. We've got a good start. Alonso had a terrible start. We've actually had a pretty good start up against Norris as well, but can't quite make a move on him into turn 1. He's just about going to stay there as we had a look around the outside. But yeah, this is the only rain forecast for the weekend, but it is pretty damn heavy rain for this sprint race as we head now through behind Norris. Alonso's had an absolutely terrible start. We'll have a look a little bit later on as to what happened to him, but he is way down outside the top 5 now. So a terrible start from Alonso. Of course, last race's race winner in Singapore. So yeah, not a good start to the sprint for him. We go a little bit deep here. Now this is interesting because, of course, from what we've seen in previous races, mainly this season, but just in general, I seem to do better in the wet than I do in the dry. Like, I can have my difficulty set perfectly for dry conditions, but in the wet, I seem to be quite a lot quicker than the AI. This first lap here, not so sure if that's the case. I mean, we're doing a pretty good job, but Norris is actually getting away from us a little bit here, and he's just got a little bit better traction out of some corners, and he's just managing to stay ahead of us, and is actually pulling a little bit of a gap. Tsunoda is actually up into 3rd. I didn't even realise that. My teammate is up into 3rd place. He's got the 2 Ferraris behind him, so it's a good start for my teammate as well. But yeah, it's an interesting thing here because as we come to the end of lap 1, Norris has almost got a second. I think he now has over a second gap lead on us as we head around the final corner on this first lap. So maybe here on this specific track, whatever it is, or whether they've updated the game, I don't know, but we don't seem to quite have that pace in the rain that we have at other tracks. To be fair though, Monza last season, we also were not very good in the wet. This was Alonso's start. It was absolutely terrible. He started 2nd. He's now down to, I think P9 or 10. He has had possibly the worst start I've ever seen an AI have in any F1 game, to be honest. He just did not move off the start at all and then just couldn't get it going. On to lap number 2, and already Tsunoda's coming under fire from the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. Leclerc trying to go round the outside of turn 1. Pretty bold move in these treacherous weather conditions, but they're still going to be side by side. Tsunoda is hanging on here. Must have just had a good start because, yeah, he's gone from 5th to 3rd right at the start of this race, but is now quite quickly coming under fire, and sure enough, Charles Leclerc manages to get past my teammates on that lap. Lap number 3 here, and we have one of the Alpines who's has a bit of a moment around that corner, and then around the next corner has a spin. He's gone for a spin. That is Esteban Ocon. He's not hit anything and not hit any other cars, thankfully, but as we see, he goes through here. He just catches that moment there, but then spins it again with a bit too much throttle application around the next corner. Very unfortunate for him, and that's going to bring out the virtual safety car on lap number 3 of this sprint race. So 3 laps in, we've already got a VSC here in Qatar. So already, perhaps we're going to have just as chaotic a race as we did or as chaotic of a weekend as we did last season. VSC didn't last that long. However, next lap around, lap number 4, that is Max Verstappen. His Red Bull woes and his terrible season continues, and literally only a lap after the last VSC, we have another virtual safety car on lap number 4. 2 virtual safety cars in basically a lap, which is ridiculous. Verstappen out of this race. Terrible news for him. We get a great run off the VSC, and look, we're going for a move on Lando Norris into the final corner. Norris was looking like he had the pace on us in these wet conditions. We've already bridged out a pretty big gap to the cars behind, but he looked like he had us under control in these conditions, but we just absolutely perfected the VSC start and have now gotten up into the lead of this race. A bit further behind us, and I believe this is George Russell in the Mercedes having a look at Carlos Sainz. So Leclerc's managed to get past my teammate. Sainz is still stuck behind Tsunoda though, and now is being attacked by both Mercedes. Actually, Russell ahead of Hamilton. Of course, Hamilton, he announced his retirement last time out in Singapore, and yeah, is actually not doing as well this time around as his teammate. Sainz locks up into turn 1 and actually ends up letting Hamilton and Russell both pass. So that's not a great moment there for Carlos Sainz. Bit further back again, and we've got one of the Aston Martins. I believe this is actually Fernando Alonso going for a move on Oscar Piastri, I believe that is. So yeah, Alonso not had a good start here to this sprint race, falling all the way back from P2, and I think that was the move for P9 or 8, so he might score 1 point here if he's lucky. Onto the final lap of this sprint race, Tsunoda's now coming under fire from the 2 Mercedes. Russell up the inside of my teammate into turn 1, making the most of that move. Hamilton is right there behind as well, but I'm not quite sure if Hamilton's going to be able to get past. I don't think he is. For us though, we pulled out a bit of a lead. We obviously, after we got past Norris, we did show that we had very good pace, and in the end we are going to come through and win the sprint race in Qatar. We're back on the top step once again, but it's only for the sprint race, so let's see if we can convert it to the main race. Not sure if maybe it was, I'm not sure if it was, you know, our pace just really good in the rain, or if maybe Norris had an issue, because he did fall right back into the clutches of Leclerc, just about managed to fend him off. But yeah, very, very close between those two at the end when we had a pretty big margin over them at 1 point. My teammate Tsunoda did end up coming home P5, so it is a pretty good sprint result for him. 4 points extra on the board, so that's always good. Alonso did manage P8, so he has at least salvaged 1 point out of this terrible sprint race, at least from the start he had on the front row of the grid. Can he convert in the race? Can we convert the win in the race? Let's see in the Qatar Grand Prix.
Welcome back to Qatar and the Lusail International Circuit, a track that has a long history for two-wheeled motorsport action. But tonight it's the four wheels of F1 that are back, and Lewis Hamilton going for another win here. So we're back here in Lusail, and this is the track map. 3.34 miles, 16 turns, and just one DRS zone out of turn 16. It's already a fast and flowing track after all. There's a good overtaking opportunity with DRS though, through the long straight and into turn 1. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Davies lines up on pole position, edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Russell, Tsunoda, Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, Gasly, Perez, Joe, Albon, Stroll, Liam Lawson, Bottas, Doohan, Sargent, De Vries, Ocon, Sainz, Magnussen, and Max Verstappen completes the grid. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box, and it's fantastic to have you with us here, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the run down into turn 1, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
Okay, it's Qatar race time, the main Grand Prix. We're starting on pole position. Lando Norris, the car next to us. 5 red lights are out, and let's get underway. We're on the soft compound tyres. We're doing a soft to medium strategy here. The team wanted me to do a medium to hard, but everybody else pretty much, apart from Norris and a couple of others, are on the mediums. So are on the soft, sorry. So we're just going to do what I assume everybody else is doing, go soft to mediums, or maybe to hards if the team decides to change it. We've managed to keep the lead through this first little sector here. Norris has actually managed to keep hold of P2 as well, so that's very good for him on those medium tyres. Thought he might fall back a little bit, but he hasn't. He's managed to just about stay there in second place as we continue on just trying to control this race. Of course, our pace was very good in the wet. Don't know how it is in the dry. You know, our qualifying, it was P3, but it wasn't, I didn't feel like it was, well, I felt like that one lap was pretty good, but I feel that my consistency on this track is not the best. It is quite a tricky track at times. This section here, you know, getting the perfect run through these corners, you can go flat through a lot of this, but you lose a lot of time if you don't quite get it right, and that seems to be where the AI catch me up the most. But we're coming to the end of lap 1 now, and we have just about managed to hang on to the lead of this race. So we head down the start finish straight, a very long straight here in Qatar. Big DRS zone as well once that is activated. There's a bit of a move going on behind us. I reckon we'll have a look at that in a second, but we are actually getting attacked by Norris into turn 1 already with DRS not even enabled yet, but we just about managed to fend him off. This is that bit of a battle that was going on behind. It is George Russell going for a move on Charles Leclerc, and he's gone for the move on Norris as well. He's now side by side with Norris for P2 in this race. Norris, though, getting his elbows out, defending like a champion and keeping hold of P2, but Russell making up positions there early in the race. Tsunoda is unfortunately going backwards as Alonso's actually had a very good start to this race. He had a terrible start to the sprint. He's had a very good start to this race. He's already attacking Tsunoda for, I believe, P5 at the moment, so he's made a couple of positions already off the start, and he is side by side with Tsunoda. These guys are having a great little battle at the moment here, and Alonso just about manages to get ahead of my teammates, so Tsunoda unfortunately starting to fall back a little bit. As this is Lance Stroll, Alonso's teammate, a bit further back, gets a pretty impressive move done on Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo there, although that is a much slower car. We then have Russell as Norris locks up, goes a bit too deep into one of those corners there. Russell now sniffs an opportunity, but Norris isn't giving this one up too easily. They're going to run side by side through this whole very twisty section here in kind of the second sector. This is giving me a bit of breathing room here out the front, so that is definitely helping me out because I'm not sure we quite have the pace of some of these other cars. The Mercedes especially, not a great qualifying, but they seem to be very good in the race here, at least in Russell's hands, as they're still side by side, and Russell's just about, I think, going to get ahead at this point, but that was some crazy long side by side action there. But Russell now up into P2, and I think he's going to start chasing me down. A little bit further back from these guys once again, and Tsunoda still suffering here. Hamilton now, my championship rival, the car to try and get past my teammate. It would be great if Tsunoda could hold Hamilton up here for as long as possible, but it's not to be. One corner and Hamilton's past, so unfortunate, but Hamilton still a fair way behind us at the moment, not quite having the pace that Russell does. Speaking of George Russell, he's right on the back of me again now. I told you these Mercedes were quick and we perhaps didn't quite have the pace here, and I just kind of have to let Russell go. I don't want to absolutely destroy my ERS there, and even by using it, he was powering past me. So that's now George Russell up into the lead of this race. Alonso still trying to make moves. He has now, I believe, actually got Lando Norris, the car ahead, who on those medium tyres is just falling back a little bit, but I think give it a bit of time and he will be up to pace with those tyres once the softs go off for everybody else. Alonso up the inside of turn 1, a relatively comfortable, easy move for Fernando. He's now up another position. We're coming into the pits on lap number 11, which I believe is actually a lap earlier than than we originally expected. And that's a bit worrying because the tyre wear seems quite big actually. So the team have decided to still go onto a set of mediums, but I'm a little bit worried now that we're going to be struggling to get to the end of this race on decent tyres. Like, those softs were pretty worn, and we've still got a reasonable way to go on these medium tyres. I'm almost kind of thinking, should I have gone for hards? But the team said mediums. Pretty much everybody else is also going for mediums. So I guess we're just going to have to stick it out, see how it goes. Bottas and Zhou, actually, the two Alfa Romeos, the cars ahead of us as we power down the main straight. We're going to try and get two in one straight here. It's a very late on the brakes move into turn 1. Just avoid contact with Zhou and actually force the two Alfa Romeos to battle with each other. But we do get past them both on that straight. Bit of an opportunistic moment for me there. This is now George Russell, who in the pits has actually fallen back a bit. He stayed out the longest on the soft compound tyres, so he's got fresher mediums to the end of this race. So I'm sure by the end of this race he's going to be pretty damn quick, but he did lose track position to myself and Fernando Alonso. Speaking of Fernando Alonso, he's now right behind me, and although we have the lead of this race, Alonso's coming to take this one from us. He won in Singapore. He's going to try and win here back-to-back in Qatar. He's trying around the outside. We're just about trying to hang on, though, having a great battle with him here, but Alonso gets up ahead of us. We're going to try and get a better run out of the next corner, but I just don't think it's going to quite be enough for us. That Aston Martin is just a bit too quick, and that is now Fernando Alonso up into the lead of the Qatar Grand Prix, going for back-to-back wins. We now have a battle behind us with Lando Norris, is it? No, it's Oscar Piastri. I always seem to get the wrong one. Oscar Piastri just got past my teammate Yuki Tsunoda, so the McLaren's looking pretty good now, actually, in about 4th and 5th, I think, so looking pretty good for those guys. Lewis Hamilton is trying to get past Tsunoda once again, so Tsunoda must have got past in the pits. Hamilton's on a set of hard compound tyres, I think he started on the mediums, so, but he's showing good pace, getting past my teammate on the mediums there, so yeah, good work for Hamilton. He's working his way up, but still a fair way behind us. We're managing to stay within DRS quite easily of Alonso, but I'll tell you what, we're pushing really hard right now. Russell's right behind us as well. This has become a 3-car battle for the lead between Alonso, myself, and George Russell. We're actually catching now up to the back of Alonso. We're making him go defensive. We're going to have a look round the outside into turn 1, try and carry the momentum, but we're not quite going to get there. We get a better run out of that corner though, but just have nowhere to go with Alonso blocking perfectly, defending perfectly through that corner. And we can't quite do anything, and we're really now eating up our tyres. As you can see, lap 27 of 29, our tyres are absolutely shot, and we're feeling it. We're really feeling it now. I think we might be over 70% on the front left, or we're very close at least, very close on the front right as well, and this is really screwing us over now. We don't have well, we have too much tyre wear in this race, and Russell gets past us onto the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix, and I don't think we're going to be able to fight back. He's having a little bit of a moment as well. Everybody's facing tyre wear here on the mediums, but yeah, unfortunate for us, it's dropped us down to P3. Oscar Piastri still battling away. He's now battling with Lewis Hamilton, gets that move done through turn 1, so that's good for us. If he can take a position off Hamilton, that would be very good. Last lap here, and as you can see, our tyres are completely dead. We come to the end of the race here. Fernando Alonso wins, back-to-back wins for him. How crazy is that? Russell gets P2. We ended up P3. Norris was catching us at a rate of knots. One more lap probably, and he would have caught us. Our tyres were absolutely shot. They were so shot at the end of this race. I've not had tyre wear like this in F1 23 before. Pretty damn crazy, but it is still a podium for us at least. Hamilton, as you can see on the final lap here, I just wanted to show this, as Hamilton and Piastri ran to the line. Hamilton had the DRS and the slipstream from Piastri, and he goes for the move, but Piastri just crosses the line ahead.
And so as they take the checkered flag, the fans go wild for their champion under the desert night sky here in Qatar. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I think we'll chalk this one up to a deft touch on the brake pedal. That's allowed them to challenge down the inside into the braking zones, and ultimately, if you do that often enough, you end up winning the race. It was great to watch as well though, wasn't it? Forget strategy, forget tyre management. Who doesn't love a good old-fashioned scrap?
It's time to present the top drivers with their trophies for today's Grand Prix. And there are a lot of people in the paddock very happy with this result. It's Aston Martin on the top step.
Well, you know, as much as I would have loved to have the win myself, I'm pretty happy with this result as well, because seeing Alonso on the top step in Singapore and then next race on the top step in Qatar, it's pretty amazing, and he's putting on a pretty good charge now after a bit of a wonky start to the season. Russell comes home for another podium for P2, which is very helpful for us in our championship, because Hamilton only managed P6 in this race behind the two McLarens. We ended up P3, so we were at least on the podium, but after starting in P1, it's a little bit of a sour note to finish on, but a podium's still good, and beating our rival by 3 positions is definitely a good position too. Tsunoda, P8 for him, not amazing, but he does at least score another 4 points, so takes away 8 points from this weekend. We had DNFs for De Vries and for Leclerc in that race, just mechanical failures, didn't bother showing them, but yes, that happened. And yeah, we extend our lead a little bit more to Hamilton in the championship. So Hamilton seems to be kind of teetering off in this kind of second half of the season. So can we bring this championship home? It is. I am sure it's going to be still very tight. I'm sure Hamilton's still going to get the better of us a few times. But at the moment, it's looking pretty good for us in the Drivers' Championship. In the Constructors, though, yeah, Mercedes are pulling away from us. But that's more just because Tsunoda's not really pulling in the points that we are. I mean, he isn't pulling in the points that we are. But yeah, I'm not too bothered about Constructors. But Drivers' Championship, it's definitely on. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.